What is up, everybody? Escape211 here. We are on the test server, and we're looking at the new weapon here. We're going to check out the quantum gun, all right? If it loads up my gatecrasher here. All right, there we go. The quantum gun 16 is the one we're going to focus on today. And this one is really interesting. I think it feels more like a support sniper weapon, all right? This is similar to the Gauss rifle, and if you listen to the dev talk, they kind of hinted at this weapon as a Gauss rifle that can add different status effects, all right? Namely stasis and overheat. So that's what this one will be able to do. We're going to start with the 16 and see how this one goes. So like I said, this will do stasis and overheat after it lands a certain number of shots, and it's a long-range sniper weapon. So it's functionally very much like the Gauss rifle, but let's take a peek at its stats just to see how it differs. So overall, it has more damage per magazine, as you would expect out of a 16 energy epic, versus the Gauss rifle that maxes out at 10. But its damage per shot, I think, is actually less, but it does more in the clip overall because it just has more shots. So higher damage potential overall. But a lot of the other stuff feels similar. I think the fire rate is the same. The reload speed is a little higher, but only by about a second. And then the range is better. So its projectile speed and the idea of its double damage chance, all that should stay the same. And then after 8 shots, it will apply overheat and stasis. Now this 8 shots works all the way across the board, doesn't change at all. Yeah, that means that when you're running dual, it will take 4 shots from the dual total to get stasis and overheat together on your target, which is what you are after. Now I actually have on my gatecrasher right now a long arm 12 setup, because if you look at the quantum gun, like we said before, it's like 63k as its damage potential. And if you go over to here, a long arm 12, which is only uncommon, already does more damage per magazine. Now, of course, if you factor in the idea the quantum gun has a double damage chance and it has overheat after a certain amount of shots, there's a higher damage potential than this. But this also has a chance of overheat, and when you factor in that, this actually can do more damage per shot. More damage per magazine, which is crazy to think. But you also have to remember that the quantum gun has a faster reload, and it will consistently do overheat and do stasis. So you're kind of paying extra, or like different avenues to get all of these status effects on this gun. All right, so enough talk about all this stuff, though. I want to play a little bit, or show you a little bit of a couple matches I did. One where I did it close to max, just because this is a 16 energy weapon, and then one where we do it with the gatecrasher, and then we'll talk a little bit more. All right, so here we go. All right, this isn't a bad map for this. I can work with this. All right, so I have a Panther build this time. This is I'll put the build up. This is like a nearly max build, just because the Quantum 16 comes in at tier 7. So it's very likely that you'll have like stuff either close to or near max for this. The issue is that I actually tried to run this as a singleton on like an Orion or something like that. It's just not realistic this late in the game. It is one of those weapons that depending on what you have available and what other variants of the quantum gun they come out with, you might be able to run something at the 4-star mark when you first get it. But I think with just the 16 alone, it's going to be hard to do. So I went with a build that's near max, but maybe a little more realistic for people to do. Here, the tricky part is that you have to expose yourself a decent amount to land 4 shots to even start, seeing the benefits of your overheat, your stasis, and that kind of stuff. So when it comes to 32 energy mechs, Panther is probably the most realistic to make this happen. Not necessarily the greatest use of Panther, in my opinion, but I tried playing around with Redox a little. That was not going so well. I feel like maybe Scorpius could do it, just because his ability doesn't overly expose you. But yeah, I just don't think it's realistic for most to do this and try to land those 4 dual shots. Otherwise, I'm totally getting in your way. Although the AI has been getting in my way all day, so I don't really care a whole lot. But yeah, and I also find that with this build, where I'm not fully maxed and I don't have the best of implants, it's just okay. I'll show the next build. I don't know if I talked about this before, but the implants on this are really what make or break this weapon for me. Just because the high-end implants just fundamentally change how I see the benefit of this weapon. But this way, it does feel like, hey, I got a 16 energy Gauss rifle. That's about it. That has some benefit of overheat and stasis for support. But that's really all this is going to do, support. And it's still not, like, the best at that. I mean, you're going to be better with other sniper weapons, other support weapons, just other stuff that's better for in-game than this one for dealing damage, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm not crazy about how this one feels. But I do think it's a different ball game when you get into the implants. So we'll do a max build next so you can see how that all plays out. But here, yeah, you're mostly a support guy doing okay damage. All right, now we are going to try a max build. I'm going to put it up for this gatecrasher setup that I have. But this is where the rubber meets the road with this weapon for me. It's kind of an all or nothing build. When you do lesser versions, it's going to be harder. But with this one, the idea of at your max range, hitting something once with this and being able, you saw that one there, being able to get stasis and overheat is where this is at. Now, specifically with this build, this relies on legendary implants, which are not going to be easy to get, I would imagine, right? So you have legendary stasis and legendary overheat, but if you can get both of those, it will increase your chance of getting those or your ability to get those significantly by 300%. And that means it only takes 2 shots to land stasis and overheat. So if you do a single dual fire, you will instantly do stasis and overheat to your target at 200 meters, which is pretty insane. So the idea of being like super support where you can instantly do... Oh, did I hit him? No, I guess not. I'm actually doing this on Gatecrasher just kind of for fun so that I can hit something in stasis and overheat and drop the pod on it. But, you know, it's not really anything that's entirely realistic for play, I feel like, but it's a fun one to play with for sure. We hit those guys with that pod, although I ran out of ammo to finish him off. So it's really interesting to see how that, you know, functions here. At 16 energy, though, the debate, of course, rages in the sense of, like, is this worth it, right? Super mega support like this is kind of neat. But is it really something that's going to be game-changing enough where it's going to outplay, you know, your usual weapons that you see, right? Your railguns, disc launchers, and EM rifles. I don't think so. I mean, I think it's an interesting play here, but I don't know if it's really going to outplay that. Oh, did we land that one? No. All right, that one was behind it too. Man, I am not good with the ion pods. Even when I put somebody in stasis, I can't land my shots. I do think that, like, if you use this with Scorpius and you have a long range implant, that could be really interesting to keep someone at bay and just keep lobbing at them. That's going to take a while to kill. Onyx is probably the better option. He's a bit slow, but, like, you don't really need speed if you're just going to be shooting at range, and then his quad rocket should be a lot easier to land on these targets. So that could be an interesting pairing, but this one just seemed like it would be fun to try just because the ion pod, historically, nice, doesn't land shots easily, and being able to shoot them and land them at this kind of range is pretty cool to me. So that's why I went this avenue, but, I mean, I don't really think this is overall going to be the best build. We should have... Oh, there he is. I was going to say, we should have at least one more target here. Oh, no. Okay. Oh, my gosh, that was the last guy. I thought he was going to kill me right at the end. That would have been crazy. Yeah, I mean, great for bot farming, you know, you see that, but in terms of actually going against players, the level of burst damage usually outplays something like this. If you can catch somebody off guard where they're looking away from you and land it so they can't turn, that could be effective. But aside from that, Alright guys, so that is the Quantum Gun 16. Now, like we were saying before, the big showstopper or the most important part for how this weapon could function for you realistically are those legendary implants. The idea of the overheat and the stasis on this is pretty crucial, I think, to the effectiveness of this weapon. I think that that's really where you want to sit with this. This can be tricky, I would think, for 16 energy, but depending on how they do it for the others, and depending on how the stasis and overheat work for those, these implants could actually make this a showstopper, like, in my opinion, if you want to run even light mechs. Like, if they do a good version of this, like, let's say an 8, and you are able to put these on here and get stasis and overheat pretty quickly, you could run a very effective support mech for that. But I do think at 16, this is a little tricky. I don't really think this plays strongly enough versus the other 16 energy weapons for realistic play. Bot farming, okay, but beyond that, you know, it's more of a fun weapon or a support weapon. But that's how I overall feel with at least this 16. I'm curious to see how the other variants go, but you guys can let me know what you think. Feel free to comment below, and we will see you out there on the battlefield.